How it started.
I said my sword was a tool of justice. Not used in anger. Not used for vengeance. But now I'm not so sure. And besides, this isn't my sword.
How it's going.
What? Snap into a Slim Jim!
Metal Gear Rising: Revengance is a 2013 hack-and-slash action game developed by Platinum Games and released by Konami, set in the Metal Gear series. While the game is action-packed, its plot focuses on critiquing the American military-industrial complex and its association with politics, making it surprisingly transformative for how campy the game is. It also had a number of transformative characters, with backstories and story arcs that were designed to make the player think. Despite being a generally serious game in a generally serious game series, Revengance is not so much remembered for its thought-provoking content and fast-paced gameplay, but for its immense potential that comes from the incredibly bombastic, high-octane action in the game. So how exactly did memes carry Revengeance's message farther than the game itself did 9 years after launch? Starting with a basic rundown of the plot, in Revengeance, you play as Raiden, a grown-up former child soldier turned cyborg mercenary. While Raiden is acting as a bodyguard for an African president, he and the president are attacked by a private military contractor firm called Desperado Enforcement and their leaders, the Winds of Destruction, who kill the president and severely injure Raiden. After he recovers, he sets off to hunt down Desperado. This leads him down a rabbit hole as he discovers Desperado's plan is to drag America into another war on terror in the Middle East to keep the profitable war economy going. While discourse about the American military-industrial complex starting wars for profits was not exactly new at the time, Revengeance presented it in a much more digestible and interesting format. Revengeance also did not go the way of other games like Call of Duty that glorified the military even when critiquing the politics behind it, starting with Revengeance's protagonist, Raiden. Moving on to Raiden himself, he is much different to the protagonists of other military games, even without the 80s action movie camp that Revengeance styles itself after. Raiden's background as a mercenary would typically make him a villain in most other modern military games, and his history as a child soldier makes him far more knowledgeable about the horrors of war compared to many other protagonists. Raiden struggles throughout Revengeance's plot with his history of violence and his bloodlust, questioning if he is actually fighting for justice or if he is just using Desperado as a convenient scapegoat for his violent tendencies. Raiden's story questions just how far you can take fighting for justice before it becomes a vendetta rather than a quest for justice. Speaking of Desperado's leaders, the Winds of Destruction each have their own transformative perspectives and backstories. With the exception of Sundowner, who just wants an excuse to murder people with a side of profiteering from war crime. The rest of the Winds, some of their underlings, and their financial backer, Senator Armstrong, all have their own reasons for trying to perform the false flag operation. Mistral found a home in Desperado. Monsoon's nihilistic tendencies make him think he can't evolve past his violent nature and he will be left behind by the world. Blade Wolf fights to avoid his own execution via memory wipe. Sundowner is Sundowner.
Like the good old days after 9/11!
And Senator Armstrong and Jetstream Sam are both trying to end war as a business, albeit in very different ways and for very different reasons. You notice those songs that we're playing? Unlike most games that just use boss themes to hype up the player, Revengeance uses them as a final piece of a puzzle for the player. As Raiden interacts with the bosses more and more, pieces of their backstory and personality get put on the table in front of the player. The songs provide the last piece of the puzzle the player needs for everything else to snap into place. This slow spoon-feeding of puzzle pieces gets the player thinking on each of the characters in relation to the plot and messages behind them, even if only in the back of their minds. This design decision helps to propel Revengance forward into being an actual transformative piece, rather than just a commentary on the military as a business. Lastly, let's move on to Monsoon's favorite topic.
Memes. The DNA of the soul.
Part of Monsoon's set of beliefs is that humans inherit memes from each other, patterns of behavior and personality, namely. In an example of life imitating art, 9 years after the game's original launch, memes breathed new life into Revengance, with 2 videos made by a YouTuber named Maxor setting off a tidal wave of jokes about the game's campy high-tempo action. As people were drawn in by the memes and started to play the game or watch Let's Plays, people began to discuss the messages and themes of the game and its various characters. Many people appreciated the game that featured a 5'10" tall cyborg parrying
Several tons of crush force
from a skyscraper-sized robot crab, also managed to contain a miniaturized version of the "what if a gun did not want to be a gun" commentary of the Iron Giant, amongst other commentaries on war. In the end, the campy hack-and-slash action of Revengance managed to help broaden the discussion around the game's themes far more than the developers may have expected. Revengeance's design of its plot and characters leaves all the puzzle pieces there, but still makes you think on how to put them together and on what the final picture is. And that is what makes it truly talented at being transformative. Alright, let's see. I got the plot, I got the protagonist, I got the music, I got all the bosses.
Buckle the fuck up, little doggy.
Wait, what? Oh, right. Kamson Man, I am so sorry I forgot about you, but isn't it completely on brand because your whole theme is being forgotten about and...
Axe time!
Whoa, whoa! Wow. He went through my wall like a Looney Tunes character. Left an outline and everything. So funny anecdote, I forgot one of the bosses while writing the script, named Kamson, who was added in a DLC and did not exist on a conceptual real-world level when the base game was made. Rather than redo the whole base game to include him, they just made his whole theme about how soldiers are used by the army and then forgotten about when the fighting is over. Oh, he's getting back up again. Before he tries to put another hole in my wall, thank you to all of the lovely people on screen for your footage of Metal Gear Revengeance, as I do not own the game to play it. Also thank you to Maxor for introducing this hilarious game to me. I'm gonna go now before Kamson wakes up from his power nap. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.
You can fly?